In progress.
So we'll go ahead and begin this meeting. I'm Kim Pusey. I'm the general manager of the Port of Umatilla and the chair of the Columbia Development Authority. So if we could, we'll begin by having introductions and young lady, could you start with it?
Yes, hi, I'm Barrett Thorson. I'm with the East Oregonian.
Thank you. And Debbie, if you don't mind.
Debbie Pedro with the Columbia Development Authority.
Aaron Palkos, City of Oregon.
Brian Lemke, Western States Carpenters Union.
Todd Gorham, Lead Industrial Rep, Western States Carpenters.
Greg Smith, CDA.
Emily Collins, CDA.
Evan Purvis, City of Oregon.
Joel Peterson, Port of Morrow.
Dave Sykes, Moore County Commissioner on the alternate, sitting in for Jeff Lynn Holtz.
John Schaefer, Umatilla County Commissioner.
Thank you. And online, Debbie or Emily, which one of you are running that? Is that you, Emily?
Yeah.
Emily, if you could help us with the folks that are online, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, Joe, do you want to start?
Yes, Joe Taylor, Port of Morrow.
Okay, it looks like you have to have JD Tubby on.
JD Tubby, Umatilla Indian Reservation.
Nick Cox.
Yeah, Nick Kotz, I'm the Reese Training Center training site manager.
Adam Huxell. He's with. And then Greg Goble,
Greg Goble, Morrow County.
Les Sites. And Patricia.
West Sites, not here enterprise.
and then a citizen. That's all.
And those of you online hear us, and I've got a microphone right here, but in particular, can you hear Emily and the other folks at the other end of the table? Just any of you. JD, can you hear when people are doing the introductions?
Yeah, it sounded okay.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. It's time for a public comment period, and we'd like to limit that to 3 minutes if we could. And Debbie, do you mind being the clock on that? The 3-minute clock, or would you like me to?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We can do it.
So anyone who would like to make a public comment? I'm assuming we've had enough opportunity for those who would be interested in doing that. I'd like to just say something briefly about Eric, right? Evan, yeah, there we go. See, Joel, I did that. So, Evan, thank you for being here. We have a guest here today who is a high school intern and intends to study political science. And I just wanted to remind all of us here that in the Roman Empire, there was both a Senate and a Colosseum. And so we're hoping for the Senate today. So, all right. As I understand what we're doing today, and thank you, Debbie, for the packet that includes all of the additional material that we have to consider. I wanted to make a statement first before we get into that. First of all, I was absent at the meeting where the motion was made for us to have this meeting. And so I apologize if I am ignorant about exactly why we're meeting here today, but I think I have a pretty good sense that we're talking about a process. And that's why we have the inserts. I have a couple more, and one of them, I'll just post them around, and I think all of these, I've got this one and another one. One is from the Columbia Development Authority. Another is an evaluation form for the president of Blue Mountain Community College. And it will just give us a little bit of background about how things are done. And I think that's part of what we have with the rest of our packet here.
Mr. Chair, do the people online, especially the board members, do they have what you're handing out?
They do not have that at this time. So these are things to be referred to.
No, I don't.
They're not there.
These are things that can be referred to later.
Okay.
That I'm assuming we're going to be doing with the rest of these materials. So
Did you have a copy, Ken?
I have a copy. Yeah, thank you. So
Question, Ken.
Debbie, did someone to the board members
please give her a hard copy so that she can do that. Thank you. Anyway, these materials that I just passed out will be part of the packet that all of us need to study and consider, going forward. There's just more material that we need to digest.
So do you have this electronically, Debbie? The two things that were just handed out?
I can give you that.
So, Mr. Chair,
Please, Greg, yes.
one of the items that's been handed out is an executive director assessment from December 11th, 2023.
Yes.
That's a personnel item, so I would hope when we're done looking at it,
Turn it back in.
we turn it back in.
Okay. Thank you.
I guess I'm just concerned that our board members online don't have a chance to see it.
Yeah, I can send it over to them.
Why don't we just recall that? I mean, Greg, I apologize for, I thought that it would help us with seeing, part of a process that would allow us to build a process, which is going to be, a lengthy task that we have before us now. And so let's just gather those back up. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd prefer for the board to see those, to see what we did back in December 11th.
Okay. So for the board, thank you. Wanted to say one other thing before we get into this. First of all, Emily, thank you.
Yeah.
Debbie, thank you. Greg, thank you for all of your work now and in the past. I want each of you to know that I hold you in the highest regard for your personal conduct, your professional work, what you've done for the Columbia Development Authority in the past. To be able to get us to this point, decades of work, and in particular, the transfer of the property that took place at the Pentagon in March of 2023 was a heavy, heavy lift for a long, long time that included the efforts of lots of individuals who are not with us here today that we can share, that I can share my sentiments towards them. But for Emily, Debbie, and Greg, I do want you to know how much we appreciate getting us this far. I believe that had we not interrupted your work with, I don't even know the adjectives to use, we would already be leasing and or have sold parcels of property that would help us pay the bills in the future going forward, and that we wouldn't have such a financial burden placed on the partners now. Finally, there's a process that has been going on for decades where the federal government provides us with a contract and they share with us what their portion of the budget is going to be in being able to operate either the local reuse authority, which we were once referred to, or the Columbia Development Authority, which we're now referred to. But that at the transfer of the property in March of 23 at the Pentagon, that it's always been intended that the federal portion would diminish as their regional contributions increased. And that was reflected in the budget that was presented to us some time ago. I voted in favor of that, including the compensation component and all of the materials that were in there. The federal government saying, we'll do this if you'll do that. And I would vote for it in the affirmative again. And I just want the record to reflect that I favor what was presented by the federal government and our role in that. And if I'm not mistaken, then Debbie can correct me, as a member of the CDA, the Port of Umatilla, we pay our bills. When the invoice comes and it's our share, we do that. So whether that's a 5-way process or a 2-way process or a 1-way, if an invoice hits the Port of Umatilla, we pay the invoice because we have that obligation and we have that serious of a relationship with the federal government. So having said as much, our only other item on the agenda is to create an evaluation form. So I passed out one from BMCC. We have several others in here from other entities that are like us. And I think that we would be best served if we actually spent some time studying these in considerable detail so that we know what the platform is that other people use successfully. I'd like to make a recommendation that after we've had an opportunity to do that, because there is so much ambiguity about the nature of this evaluation process and who that includes and how that process should go forward, whether we're talking about a contractor, several contractors, a full-time employee, and in this case, we have kind of a hybrid situation that I'm not going to even wade into what that is, because we have a relationship with the Port of Morrow, the federal government, and each of us with respect to the staff. I would suggest that we consider, after having studied these materials, that each of the 5 entities get our general counsel. So in my case, David Blanc, Doug Olson, Sam Tucker, Mr. Hester, Justin Nelson, and Greg. Yeah, we get our 5 attorneys together to agree on someone who is expert in employee relations and performance evaluations to present to the board what would be proper for our particular situation. I think if I were to say, well, you know, our legal counsel will do that, I would hope that I get some pushback from the other four so that it wasn't a biased process. What I'm looking for as the director here is an unbiased process that has a legal component to it so that we don't wade out into some place where we have liability because we either put together an improper process or we treated the people who are doing the work for us in an improper fashion. So that's my suggestion, and I'm more than happy to hear from anybody here about, you know, the difference of opinion or your affirmation to that direction going forward.
So, Mr. Chair, I guess I really think it's important that we understand, is Mr. Smith an employee of the Port of Morrow, or is he an employee of the CDA? I think that's going to be pretty critical going forward.
Yeah, I do too, which is why I recommend we study the materials that have been presented to us. And then we get our attorneys together and we select someone who helps us define the question you just asked. Because John, you have a question about that. I have a question about that. I think that there is enough ambiguity that we need to have someone who is objective, that is selected by our 5 legal counsel to help us make that determination. Because I have the same question as you, and I'd be surprised if the rest of us don't have a similar question. I mean, I don't know the answer to that, John.
Could the Port of Morrow tell us perhaps?
I'm the alternate. Did you hear that, Joe?
Yeah, yes, I did. And we've asked our council this discussion, but there's been no definitive decision or conclusion that says yes or no. It's up in the air. Probably the same thing you're thinking, Tim and John. We just don't know exactly what that answer is. So I apologize for not having an answer.
No, thank you, Joe.
But I can't tell you that our attorney, Sam Tucker, he's aware of it and has asked questions.
Okay. So I'm going to assume that you and Joel would make Sam available if Sam and David and the others were to get together and see if they can't help us with someone that is not biased with any of the specific members here who can help us make that determination that will then help us build a process where we don't find ourselves in some kind of a legal predicament because we treated somebody in a different way than they should have been. So that's my suggestion.
Could we ask Greg how do you see your role? Do you see you as a Port of Morrow employee or do you see you as a CDA employee?
You know, that's for the board to decide. It's really not my call.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Anybody else?
I think that's the number one thing you have to decide, because wouldn't that determine how you hold your meetings and how you do, okay,
All of that.
all of it, yeah.
And, but are you amenable to have, at least asking your legal counsel to get together with the other 4?
Yeah,
We have that
absolutely.
conversation.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm glad.
all right. So, David, Johnny, okay with that, having a meeting
I'm
like
fine with
that?
that.
JD, can you hear and do you have a view on that? I'd like to hear from you if you're able to or willing.
Yeah, I think we have the exact same questions, and especially about, even attendance at executive sessions. I mean, I think there's some implications of whether or not the employee is a CDA member or employee or a Port of Morrow employee. I think there's some serious implications.
Okay.
On that. So that needs to be determined first. I think my only concern is, and the only thing I want to make sure we do is having a timeline on this. So it's not just doesn't turn into bureaucratic nightmare the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay. I don't know exactly how to set that timeline right now because I don't know how long it's going to take us to identify an attorney. But if we could maybe have this conversation be an item on our meeting that's already scheduled for the 22nd. And hopefully we can hear back from our respective legal counsel that they've at least met and they're looking at some folks that can advise us. I don't know how we could do it any faster than that, and I share your concern that we do this expeditiously, JD. So would that be amenable to you?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure there's some even general timeline, like we need to complete this like by the October 22nd or have some determinations before the October 22nd meeting and have some formal process done by the end of the year or even in 4 months.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with I'm okay with a flexible and liberal timeline. I just want to make sure there is a timeline.
okay. Let's do this. Let's at least have an item on the 22nd where we've got a status report about what we're intending to do, because I don't know that we all know the schedules of each of our respective general counsel, but let's agree just in terms of a consensus that we work expeditiously to get our attorneys together to see if they can't come up with a recommendation as soon as possible. And we have some urgency to this matter because we're in a state of ambiguity as it is now. And given that we're not able to adequately direct our staff to be able to do the work that needs to be done in terms of putting together some cash flow out there to be able to move forward and not end up with these huge bills that we're otherwise accruing. Anybody else, John? You okay with that, the 22nd? All right,
Mr. Chair,
please.
just a thought for the board to consider. It may be worthwhile to see a job description, so you actually know what you're evaluating.
Okay, and where would we get that?
I think that'd be something the board would want to create.
Okay, so a job description would be part of this as well. Yeah, because you can't evaluate what you don't know you're evaluating. So, thank you. All right.
Just to be clear for the media, a job description was created, but that was created at a time when we were focused on real estate transfer with US Army.
Mhm.
Could we get a copy of that job description so we have a starting point going forward?
Okay. Anything else and the suggestion to help us, we're trying to do our best to help you and your staff. And anything that you could contribute to the process, I personally would welcome with open arms. So
I just shared with the board back in November of 2023, and there were only 2 of you who were part of that process. And I understand that there's not necessarily that history that everyone has, but you did create a form, your staff created a form, and that form was utilized, and both Debbie and I utilized that form.
Yep.
And so maybe that would serve as a template as well.
okay, and maybe we could have another conversation about that on the 22nd. This is the form, this is the origin of it, and so forth. You're amenable to having that be an item on the 22nd.
I just want to know there was a
Okay,
form a year ago, but maybe it is wise for us to create a brand new one and start afresh.
let's do that. If you wouldn't mind presenting something to us on the 22nd with respect to that, that begins to put some flesh on the bones that we hope that we have with the legal counsel that we hope we have together, or we're moving in that direction. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Anybody else, anything else? Knowing that we're going to go back and look at these materials so that we're better prepared to know what it is that is done elsewhere. And then what we're going to be talking to a potential legal counsel about to help us put together. Please, Commissioner.
When the evaluation's produced, it's going to be like an in-house, it's not gonna be a CAN type, is it? Well, and the reason I ask that is because, and I'm just an alternate, so,
Yeah,
but his job seems to be a hybrid, maybe between government and private. because he does a lot of things as CEO of a private company would be graded on.
Yeah.
So, you know, like a BMCC can appreciate that, but, you know, things like financial gain, or, you know, seem like that would be incorporated, and maybe some examples, if there are any, of a CEO of a company.
Yeah, that's for, I apologize for my metaphors, but if you go through this, some of these describe an ostrich and some of them
Okay,
describe a
yeah, I didn't get a
rhinoceros and
chance to
so
look
forth.
through
And
it.
so,
I
yeah.
figured you probably, okay.
Yeah, and so, yeah, as we look through all of these, we go, oh, that doesn't fit, part of this fits. And that's why we need to turn this over to an HR expert who has a legal background to be able to guide us. Otherwise, we're just in this morass of, you know, ambiguity again, so. Thank you so much. Anybody else? All right, meeting's adjourned. We appreciate your time.
Hey, do you want these back?
We should get those back, yes.